All right, we'll just wait like another minute or so as people are getting on here. There is a Q&A button on your screen, and if you want to ask a question, which this is a Q&A with me, so as we talk, if you have questions, you can certainly put those in the Q&A box, and we will start going through and answering some of them. Brandy just said, "Hey, everybody." So
yep, just welcoming everyone so that you know where to type it.
Yep. All right, let's see.
So while they're still coming in, it's hard to believe, like, we're coming up on a year of Unplanned hitting the theaters.
I know.
Does it feel like that long?
Yeah, I mean, sort of. Like, yeah, it sort of feels like longer than a year because there was so much just to do and getting the word out. But yeah, it's been a crazy year. So I'm still, I think, catching up on sleep. So a year later. So, but no, I mean, it's been good. And the international, interest has been big now. So we've been, getting it to play all over the world, which is crazy. Like, never thought that would happen. So
Noah made a comment down here. He said he saw it on opening day with his mom and some pro-choice coworkers of hers. So
wow,
that's a victory. Yeah, for sure.
That's huge. Yeah, I wonder if any of them switch sides or, that's sort of the thing. I mean, we made it thinking, okay, this is going to convert some people because they'll be able to like see abortion finally for what it is. But we didn't want people to ever be able to say, well, I just didn't know what abortion was, like we wanted people to know. So those coworkers, like, they know. They can never say like, well, I just didn't know. So, all right, well, it is 6:04 according to my clock. So I'm Abby Johnson. You are here on our webcast that we do monthly called The Walls Are Still Talking. We do this webcast every month. We have different topics that we touch on, usually with former clinic workers, where, we're just getting them to tell us more about something that they experienced, something that they witnessed. Sometimes we have multiple workers on, sometimes we have one person on. We've had workers talking about the illegal conditions inside of clinics. We had Monica Klein on one time talking to us about sex ed in schools. So, we're taking sort of the expertise of our former workers and we're letting you hear that expertise for free once a month. It's excellent content for you. And but every once in a while, we sort of want to like take a step back and say, okay, a lot of you have heard a lot of great information. So maybe now you have some questions. And so that's what this is for, this Q&A with me. I can't promise I'm going to be able to answer every question, but I will do my best. So this is just sort of your opportunity to ask any burning questions that are on your brain. Yeah, so I am here with Brandy Meeks. Brandy is our Vice President of Administration and Operation for And Then There Were None, and also for Pro-Love Ministries. And we're going to start off just sort of having a conversation about things that we've seen over the past year, some of the highlights that have burst through into the pro-life movement, maybe some of the challenges that we've had, and then we're going to get right into your questions. So, the pro-life movement, I think this year in 2019 had a very good year. We had a lot of successes legislatively in the state legislature. We also saw some really great gains, even at the federal administration level, which was exciting. And for so long we had been in a place where well, we just didn't get gains, pro-life gains from from a federal government, and now we're finally getting some. So that's exciting. Pregnancy centers are going strong. Almost every pregnancy center out there is now equipped with ultrasound technology. The ones that are not yet, they are working toward that goal. We have many that have expanded their services even into providing STD testing and treatment. So that's another great way to reach people who are participating in, risky behavior. Those are the people who are more likely statistically to have an unplanned pregnancy. So this is a way to sort of reach into their hearts before that unplanned pregnancy even exists. Ultrasounds, we have a lot more pregnancy centers that are going into public school systems and private school systems teaching abstinence-based education. So that's been awesome because, again, it's about getting to the young people, getting to the kids. That's where we've got to convert a lot of hearts, because it's that age, it's those people who are having abortion. So anyway, so it's been, a strong year for pregnancy centers. I can't think of any real challenge that pregnancy centers have had this year. The year before, there were some challenges in courts, state courts, but for the most part, all of those challenges were successes for the pro-life movement and pro-life pregnancy centers. So, Brandy, can you think of anything that's I
would just ask, I just have to piggyback off of the kind of the doors that have been open with the movie this past year, the workers, more of them feeling confident about speaking out, and also just being able to share their own stories. And it blew my mind whenever they viewed Unplanned, to have them talk about how that was their story as well. They saw so many elements of that within your story, and now we have over 550 that are speaking out about the different things that they saw, the different things that they participated in, and they're finding some courage and some healing through that. And part of that is the grace that we have all been afforded, and also we're just seeing people become just be able to see the humanity in the workers. And I think that is a beautiful thing. And I think Unplanned really kind of launched that, and now people are seeing that that there is hope for every single worker that enters that abortion clinic every single day.
Yeah.
So it's a fantastic thing. So are you seeing some of these Q&As pop up here? I see a few. Okay, cool.
I am. Yeah. So Unplanned was released. That was a pretty big blow, I think, to the abortion industry. People are reporting that, numbers are down in clinics. We see continual decreases in abortion numbers year after year, which is exciting. But, we also have some challenges facing us. The medication abortion pill being so widely available through the mail, through telemedicine. So we definitely have some challenges there, how do we reach those women who are just, clicking on an ad on their smartphone, right, and going straight to an abortion provider, or, getting them misoprostol. So there's definitely some challenges there. I always say in the pro-life movement, the only thing that should be consistent in the pro-life movement is that we're always changing. And so, our demographic changes, we have to change with them and figure out how to really meet with them. So,
and that's probably the challenges that pregnancy centers have ahead of themselves this year, right? Are making sure that they are able to talk about some of these things that are happening, like you're talking about with the medication abortion, and being able to be proactive and have open and honest conversations with women and be a trusted source for them. So, my heart about the pregnancy centers.
Yeah.
For sure. I was a pregnancy center director back in the day, so I totally understand. And that's that's part of what I know that we had when we sent out the email about tonight. We want to talk about what we're going to look forward to this year, what challenges we may face, but ways that we're going to have victories, because I do think this is a year of victory for us.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think that even culturally, just the tide is sort of changing. I know like people say that every year.
Right, right.
Um, but I actually don't say that. I don't say that every year, so I'm not one of those people. I'm more of a realist than probably most optimistic pro-lifers, but I do see something changing. Like something is changing in the hearts and minds of people who have previously supported abortion. And I think one of the things that's changing is just um, this just brazenness toward abortion.
Mhm.
I think it's really turning a lot of people off.
I think it happened in New York when the lights went up on the
Hmm.
building. I think that is when it was a pivotal moment for people to start waking up and realizing, kind of woke up the sleeping giant, if you will.
Yeah. And then, you see on social media that girl who was like, gonna find out my baby's gender. It was like a little TikTok thing. And she's like, gonna go find out my baby's gender, kind of nervous. It shows her like going to a clinic. And then she's like, and she turns it around. It says abortion.
Mm.
And there were people who were coming on my Twitter because I had reposted it. And there were people coming on Twitter that were like, okay, like I'm pro-choice, but this is really gross. Like, is this really what we support? And so I think that, before it was like, oh, we're all about being compassionate and we're going to be compassionate toward women. And they were pro-choice because they believed that's what was helping women. Um, oh, abortion's such a difficult decision for a woman to make, but is it? I mean, if they're joking about it on TikTok accounts and, so just sort of that brazen mentality and attitude, that pendulum is swung so far to the other side that I think it's sort of grossing people out. Like they're like, this is yuck.
People that are in the middle that, used to say like, oh, that's a decision for them, are starting to realize that affects everyone, right? Not making a decision is still a decision, right? Indecision is still a decision. And so I think you're absolutely right. Like people are starting to see that, and they don't want to be associated with that because it's so bold that it's too far. It's too far for people that even, consider themselves being on the fence.
Yeah. So in a way, I think, it's that scripture is God can work all things together for good, right? So like even some of the vile things that we see, like from the pro-choice movement, like God is still using some of those things for good, and it's causing people to look and to say, maybe this isn't what I support anymore. Maybe I need to rethink this. And so God can truly use all things. And we're seeing that, I think, even today. So even with just sort of the vile nature that we see sometimes in the pro-choice movement. So so 2020, everybody's been doing the vision for 2020, right, with the eyesight 2020.
Right. It's the catchphrase of the year.
it is so so I think that we do have a pretty clear vision, though, we as a pro-life movement sort of collective going forward, and how we're going to tackle these really tough issues. I hear from pregnancy centers and they're saying, Abby, we used to get women in at 10 weeks along, we showed them their baby on the ultrasound, and they're like, oh, of course I'm not going to have an abortion. Now these girls are coming in wanting to do the abortion pill. They're 4 or 5 weeks pregnant. We can't even see anything on the ultrasound yet. They're walking out.
To be able to show them, right?
That's right.
Thinking like, oh, I'm early enough so I can move forward with this.
Yeah. And so pregnancy centers are struggling. Like, how do we reach that woman? We can't always rely on the ultrasound, right? That has always been the ticket to that, having that aha moment, that, oh, it is a baby, but when there's nothing to see on the ultrasound, doesn't mean there's nothing there. Exactly. Right. And doesn't mean that life isn't there. It doesn't mean that life isn't important, but, reaching those women, it's a different time. And, figuring out how to best reach them is something that CareNet and Heartbeat and NIFLA, like they're really strategizing and trying to work together and saying, here's some tactics, here's some tips, for how to reach them. So, I mean, we are moving into this year. Of course, we have an election coming up, which is going to,
it's an election? There's an election coming up?
I mean, yeah, you haven't heard? Yeah.
Couldn't tell. Did not know.
Yeah. Yeah. Good to know. It'll be in November. Um, so with the election coming up, I mean, it's, it's imperative that pro-lifers get this right. I think that we will be seeing at least 2 retirements on the Supreme Court in the next 4 years. If we have a president that can elect, pro-life justices, we're looking at the overturning of Roe v. Wade and Doe v. Bolton. And so it's,
Which
this
we
is a very,
don't take lightly, right? Like, we got to be ready for that. Like,
that's right.
It's
Yeah.
not just a matter of saying it and all this rhetoric. Like, we've got to be ready for when that day comes, and we got to be ready now. So,
Yep. But if we don't get it right in November of 2020, I think that Roe v. Wade will be the law of the land for probably the rest of my lifetime. We probably won't get another opportunity until our kids are adults and have their own kids. And, so this is a very critical election year. It's very critical that we get it right, that we get the right person in place, because those Supreme Court I think they don't really understand how important those Supreme Court nominations are. So, so we're going to be flooded with election information this year. So, trying to remain civil with people who maybe are voting differently than we are, or what we hope they would. So,
a whole webcast on that, right? Like,
we should.
Stay tuned for next month.
Yes.
How to love thy neighbor.
Yeah, love thy neighbor, even though you want to strangle them. You gotta love them.
Pro-love, Abby. Pro-love.
Pro-love. We love first. So, okay, I'm going to start getting into some of your questions. Okay, so first question is from Anna. It says, I am going to a town hall. Oh, no. Can you read it? I just made it go away. No, wait, I got it.
It's right here. I got it. You want it?
I got it. Okay, I'm going to a town hall for pro-abortion Democratic PA Congresswoman Susan Wild tomorrow. The topic is healthcare. What would you say if you went to the same town hall? What do you think I should highlight? That's a big question. Okay, I have a thought. Brandy, do you have a thought? Because we could both share our thoughts.
You go with your thought first. I'll see if I can figure it out. Hey, you go first.
Okay, I'll go first. Okay, so, one of the things that has been talked about over and over and over again in Congress is the Born Alive Infant Protection Act. So this would protect babies that are born alive after abortions. People like Melissa Oden, Claire Colwell, Gianna Jessen, Josiah Presley. So these people who are born alive after abortions, and then they're basically, they should be left to die. But because someone in the hospital or the clinic or wherever they were born looked at this baby in a bucket and said, I can't just let this baby die, they picked them up, scooped them up, and took them and gave them life. So I think that would be a very cool thing to hit on regarding healthcare. Maybe something like, according to the CDC, over 130 babies have been born alive after an abortion. Would you consider a baby born alive after an abortion as a patient? Or do you consider them as something that should be killed in order to fulfill the wishes of the mother? Maybe something like that. I don't know. What do you think, Brandy?
Well, I was going to go a different route. That's not surprising.
Okay.
They tackle things from different directions, right? But we still
Yep.
get it done. I'm going to go the tried and true route of asking them if they're aware of Check My Clinic. Just
Okay.
be able to bring that up, right? Because we have checkmyclinic.org. We have health inspection reports from all over the country from abortion clinics, and the violations are atrocious. And
Yeah,
yet,
they are.
the way that they handle them or don't handle them more often than not is just as atrocious. And so I think I would bring that up just for an awareness factor and ask if they're aware, and kind of get their feedback on that. A lot of people, I noticed in some groups that I, even just like media groups that I happen to stumble across, if I can put that link in there for Check My Clinic, it tends to alleviate some of like the pressure and stress of people like screaming at other people, because they realize that this is the health department that's put this information out, right? This isn't just
Right.
something that we have put a summary together of. This is the local health department, the state health department, that has done these inspections and finds these issues. And I
We've
would
just compiled them, but
we do.
they're out there. We've compiled them, but these, like, you can see they're directly from the state. I think I actually like your idea better.
Well, thanks. So, and
Yeah,
the main
good.
thing is just to ask them why we're settling. Like, why are we settling for this? Why are we settling for this as healthcare?
Yeah.
Out of desperation. And I just think it's one of the saddest things as women that we have allowed ourselves to settle for this level of care.
Well, and you could even be like, sort of throw it like maybe like abortion sympathizing in a little way to like maybe, I don't know, bring them in a little bit, but like to say something like, there's been a website that's, been compiled. It's called checkmyclinic.org. They have this website has gathered every inspection report from inspected facilities of abortion clinics. The the findings are egregious. There, I can tell you that over 70% of the violations that have been found in abortion clinics have to do with sterilization. So not properly sterilizing instruments being used woman to woman, having untrained staff. And to say something like, how are you going to ensure that women who walk into these clinics are given better options and safer health care?
Mm-hmm.
So then it's not like you're some pro-lifer, like, so are you ready to close down these clinics or what? Right. But like, but maybe to like draw them in a little bit and to say like, hey, this is a problem. You say you're for women. You say that you want abortion to be safe. Well, abortion's not safe. And we know abortion can never be safe because an unborn child is killed. But just to their point, these clinics are not safe. And this has been evidenced over and over again by failed inspection reports. Those have been compiled on this one website. Are you aware of this website? Have you looked at the state violations? Do you see that over 70% have sterilization issues, putting women at risk for very dangerous, potentially fatal infections? Have you seen that over 50% have untrained staff that they're being written up and cited for, that are documented? Like, what are you going to do to fix that? Are you just going to continue to give abortion facilities a pass? Or are you actually working to do something to help the health and safety of women? And that may be a way, like, where you don't come across as like super pro-life, right? That may be a way to actually get your question answered. Because I think if you come out of the gate like, there's a website called Check My Clinic and it shows that every abortion clinic should be shut down because they're filthy, right? Like, they're going to be like, put that question in the trash, right? So you've got to sort of finesse it and like work with what the audience is going to be like, and what she's going to be more willing to answer and not answer and things like that. So,
and right now Anna is like, Abby, can I just pick you up and put you in my pocket for tomorrow?
No,
So
you'll do great. We have like total faith in you. You're gonna be amazing, Anna. So way
great
to
question.
go. And
Yeah.
yeah, and way to like do that, like to be there, to be like, hey, I'm pro-life, but I'm gonna sit in the middle of these pro-choice people and I'm gonna ask my question. Like that's
Even if
totally
it's
awesome.
uncomfortable, right? Because that's
That's right.
the reason why it's been so long since we've been able to have this momentum and victory, because a lot of us were silent, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now we have this momentum and we have this opportunity, and guys, it would just be a shame to waste it. And
Yeah.
so I'm so thankful for people like you, Anna, that are not allowing any opportunity to pass you by.
Yeah, and like you may be shaking, like your voice may be shaking, but you got to stand up and ask that question anyway, and know that you're not standing alone. I mean, we're all standing with you. Christ is standing with you. Like we've got to keep putting the abortion issue out at every town hall meeting, every debate, like every opportunity we have to talk about the unborn. We've got to keep doing that. We've got to keep putting it in their face.
Yep.
So I think it's awesome that you
And
want
with
to do
great
that.
resources, right? Resources are
Mm-hmm.
a huge piece of it. Instead of just saying, I feel this way, or because this happened to me, having those resources, especially an unbiased one, like Check My Clinic, right, gives you the opportunity to be able to build bridges with people. So make sure that you are equipped with great resources in hand if you're going to speak out about some of these things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, next one. Have any tips? Where you want to go, Abby?
Okay. So I'm just going to follow up on this one. Kathleen asked, why do you feel that Roe v. Wade won't be overturned soon if not done with Supreme Court that is formed in the next 4 years? Okay. So I'm just going to sort of backtrack here because I'm not sure like your knowledge level is of Supreme Court and all this kind of stuff. So I'm not trying to be like, let me teach you a thing. I'm just, for people that may not know who are on here. Okay. So Supreme Court justices is a lifelong term, unfortunately. You are never booted off the Supreme Court. You don't reach a term limit. You basically stay on the Supreme Court until you die or you retire, but very few retire. They usually just die. So let's say we have a pro-choice Democrat get into office in 2020, and let's say what will happen is the justices that are like on their way out, that are pretty close to retirement, like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, they're going to go ahead and retire when someone pro-choice is in office. Okay? They're not going to retire when Trump is in office, but they will retire when, Bernie Sanders is in office, right? Because they are confident that somebody like Bernie Sanders is going to put someone onto the Supreme Court just like them. So if they're able to get 2 to 3 Supreme Court justices, solidly pro-choice Supreme Court justices, and they generally get them on pretty young. Like when they start, they're in their like 50s, 60s. But they'll be on there until they're like in their 80s or 90s. That's basically going to solidify the Supreme Court for at least the next 20 to 30 years. So we're talking about no possible overturn of Roe v. Wade in the next 20 to 30 years if we don't get the appointments that we need to get into there this next 4 years, because it is a lifelong term. So that's what I meant by that. And, Roe v. Wade can only be overturned by the Supreme Court. That's it. It can't be overturned any other way. So it has to be returned. And it's not just Roe, but we're also talking about Doe v. Bolton. It can only be overturned by the Supreme Court. And that will only happen if we have a favorable Supreme Court. We are like, all we need is really one more solid pro-life justice to overturn Roe. And we absolutely believe that we would have that opportunity in the next 4 years to get one more placement. And that would set us up for the next several decades to have Roe overturned, which then Roe would go to the states, and abortion would not Roe. Abortion would go to the states. And then from what we think right now, about half of the states in the United States would make abortion illegal in their state. So then the battle is in each state, one by one, trying to end abortion that way. So, okay, I hope that answers that question.
Yeah, I'm so glad you took that one for me, because I'm just doing the plan for what to do to be able to prepare for it, right? Abby, you can speak on all of the political climate of it. I did see one on here that I thought would be, first of all, I want to say hi to Sarah. Sarah she's a teenager that is working on being more of a pro-life voice in her community. And you have a question for us. I'm going to get to that one in just a minute. I know you were asking about specifically how to start a pro-life group at your school. So what should you be focusing on? And by the way, she says she loves us, but we love you too. And we also want you to keep up the amazing work. So Abby, what would you say to youth that are trying to, just be able to build a community of, a pro-life community within their area?
So I would always recommend that people talk to Students for Life of America. They are a great resource for people your age who are wanting to get involved in the movement and to do something with their peers, right? So, I don't know if you're in high school or what, but if you're in high school, you could start a pro-life club or Sanctity of Human Life Club or whatever you want to call it on your school campus. If it's a public school, they cannot deny your request. They have to let you start a club if it's a public school. So you start a club, it's just you and some of your friends, right? Like you sucker your friends into being in the pro-life club and you have, Chick-fil-A at your meetings or, whatever, like you feed people, you have pizza. That's how you get people to come.
Food brings them.
You always bring food. Yeah. And you talk about, important issues, things that you want to do, and then you have fun doing it. So, you start fundraising, doing a bake sale for, at the school for, fundraising to go to the March for Life or your local march or whatever. Like when Life Chain comes around in October, you guys organize a group and y'all go out there and, hold affirming signs, right? Like life affirming signs, not like big bloody baby picture signs, but like,
and don't let anybody talk you into it, right?
No.
Life affirming. Yes. No graphic images for sure.
No, but really life affirming, like positive messages, and people will be like, hey, that looks like fun. Hey, they go to DC every year. That looks awesome. Like, I want to be able to get out of school and go to DC. So there's like little things. You can have your pregnancy center come in. You could do a diaper drive where you invite kids to bring in, and kids love that. Like my daughter is 13, and for her birthday this year, she had a combined birthday party with one of her best friends, and they had like a dance at our thing in our community, and all these kids came. There were like 50 kids that came, and the thing was, don't bring gifts, bring an item for one of our local pregnancy centers. Oh my gosh, like I need to post it. They brought so much stuff. Like kids were so excited. They were like going to the store, like bugging their parents. We got to go to the store. I got to get baby stuff for Grace's party. Like they're going to the store. They're getting all this really awesome stuff. They were so proud. And Grace and her friend, like they organized it, like got it all broken down, and took like this humongous delivery to the pregnancy center one day. The pregnancy center was so excited. So, I mean, I think that kids will want to get involved with you, like once you start getting it going, and just don't be discouraged. Like keep persevering. Like even if there's only 3 people at your first meeting, that's okay. Like just keep going. Everything has to start somewhere. When I started and then there were none, I had no clients that were leaving the abortion industry. But then just like that, they started leaving. People started coming. And it's the same way. You just have to keep sticking it out, persevering. You know, if God's calling you to do more, like he's going to equip you for that.
And pray about it,
Yeah.
right? So pray that God will lead the right people to you to help you form this group and be able to help others along the way. So, and good for you. I love it. I have teenagers of my own, so I love it when teens are talking about ways that they can become more involved, and it's countercultural, really. So, okay, so there's another question on here that I really wanted to address, and it talks about, it says, Planned Parenthood has a full week with our local high school's freshman biology class. The school stopped giving a preview to parents because no one came. The bio teacher does not attend and doesn't even know what's presented. The principal doesn't care. What can we do about this? Deep breath, right?
Okay, yeah. So unfortunately, nothing's going to happen until parents and or students, but primarily parents, start making a big deal about it. You know, this is sort of the state of the school with our kids. You know, so many parents are just completely checked out to what's going on in their kids' schools. It can be very frustrating. So I think, you know, so the first questions I would ask are, you know, do you have other parents that would be willing to sort of like go on this campaign with you? It's a big task. Going after Planned Parenthood in the school is a big task. You have to really get involved. You have to spend time. You have to really get involved. You've got to get other parents on board with you. You've got to attend school health advisory committee meetings. You have to attend school board meetings. Like, you have to be the squeaky wheel. You've got to show them like all the disgusting stuff that Planned Parenthood is teaching our kids. You've got to do the digging. You have to do the research, and then you have to bring this information in front of the school board. You know, in front of the superintendent. The principal is not the end all be all at the school. Right. There's a school board, there's a superintendent that is above him. So if the principal's not listening, then go above his head. And if that superintendent isn't listening, then go to the school board. Like, you just have to keep pressing and keep pushing. But I'm not going to lie to you and say it's an easy downhill battle. It's not. Once Planned Parenthood is in a school, it's very hard to get them out. But I will tell you that it absolutely can be done. I've seen it happen. I have seen it be done well. But it took a strong showing of parents to get it done.
I would also encourage you to look to Monica Klein. She's one of our clients through And Then There Were None. She has an organization called It Takes a Family. And you should be, I think Reclaiming Parenthood is the name of her social media, but you should be able to find her. You can also go to, I believe, prolove.org. I'm sorry, proloveministries.org, and be able to find some information about her organization. She was a former Planned Parenthood sex educator. She was a contractor that worked with them and did a sex education in schools. And so now she helps parents, communities, schools to understand what exactly is being taught in schools, and can also maybe answer your questions on ways to strategize to be able to help them get out. But if I could say this to everyone else who is listening right now that doesn't currently have this problem, just because you don't have this problem that you know of doesn't mean they're not knocking on the door. So it's very important to make sure you're going to those curriculum meetings, right? She said here, like, people weren't going, right? And so they're able to sneak right in there. Even if you think that there's no way they could get into your small conservative community, whatever it may be, guys, do not allow the door to be cracked open, because once it is so difficult, like Abby said, to move them out. And so evil is lurking at every opportunity, and it's just, it's better to be preventative and proactive rather than having to be reactive. You will thank yourself as parents, and your children and their grandchildren will be grateful as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so Bonnie wrote sort of a long question. I can tell you're a writer because you wrote a very long question. It's not really a question, but Bonnie's writing a book, and this woman, this fictional character in her book, has had an abortion, and now she has a child, and she says the birth of the child was bittersweet, healing, but heart-wrenching. I want to be sensitive to families who've been through this. So, I would encourage you to talk to women who have had abortions in their past and then went on to have children. That's the case for most of us. Most women, who have abortions go on to have children later in life. So, I would get some of those stories. I appreciate you wanting to be sensitive. For some of us, like me, I mean, I've had a lot of babies. And I'm not a person that's necessarily like, I'm not like haunted by my past or the past decisions that I've made. They're in the past. God's redeemed me. Like, it's done. That chapter of my life is closed. He still uses my past for his glory, and that's what I want him to do. But I don't give birth and think about the babies that I aborted in the past. But I know that some women probably do. And so I would just encourage you to, I'm sure that women who have had abortions and have later on had children, and just ask them for their words. Maybe run a couple things by them that you've written. Do you find this to be too heart-wrenching? Do you feel like it's accurate? It's always good to get like some more eyes on complex characters and books and things like that. So that would sort of be my advice there. All right.
Hey, Abby, I got a question over here on the side. I can see. What did you think about President Trump attending the March for Life? I know you want to answer that question. I know you did.
You know what? I was very excited. I was very happy that he came. He's the first sitting president to ever attend the March for Life. Other presidents have been asked. Other pro-life presidents have always been asked. They've never come. So I think it's huge. I think it's a huge display that he took the time. His speech was great. And, I've heard people say like, well, he just had that speech written for him. And that's true. Like, they all have their speeches written for him. But the one thing I know about President Trump is that if he doesn't mean it, he won't say it. So, I think, it really was from the heart. And, I thought it was great. I mean, it's just, I think it's sort of like, it's, for a long time I go to the March for Life, and, when Obama was in office, it was like, we're going, and we're excited to be here, but it just felt like a downer, like every year, because it was like, is this thing ever going to end? Like, it just, I don't know, it just felt like a bummer. Like every time you went, like, you walked away like feeling like, oh, that was awesome. Like, I love being around so many awesome people. Bleh. But then you're like, oh man, like,
here we go again, right?
Here we go. Like, now we're back to regular life. And are we ever going to actually have a chance at overturning Roe? And now I feel like pro-lifers are so hyped up because we're like, whoa, like, yes, we actually do have a chance. And that's the first time we felt that in many years. So, yeah, it was a good feeling. And like, even my friend, Teresa, who's like, she's a pro-life atheist. She's liberal in like every area except for abortion. She's vegan. She's like super granola, crunchy, whatever. Does not have a huge affinity for President Trump, but she was like, man, I'm so glad he came. Like we don't have to agree on everything. And in fact, we don't agree on most things.
Right.
She's like, but we agree on abortion. And man, that was a big step for him to come and like put himself, I mean, you think about it, like, he's standing up on the stage and there's like bulletproof glass on the front of the stage. I mean, like, he actually put himself like at risk, to come and to do that. And, yeah, it was awesome. It was good. I was glad I was there and able to see that. And you know what? Hopefully we'll see him next year.
Great. Okay. See, there are quite a few guys, and we have a few minutes left, so I know we may not get to all of them, but as you're looking through here, are there any that you see right away? What'd you think about the 2,411 babies that were aborted and now have been properly buried? What'd you think about all that, Abby? How was that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that, you know, they were given a proper burial for sure. That was something that I'd initially jumped on, just ensuring that those babies were going to be, you know, transferred into hands that would give them a proper burial. Um, you know, people like Father Frank Pavone and Eric Scheidler, you know, Eric Scheidler, for them, that's more local to them. So they got involved. I stepped back and I was like, take it away, you know? So they did a great job of just really showing the dignity of these babies. We actually have a worker through and then there were none that worked with Klopfer. So, you know, it's been interesting to sort of navigate this with her as well. You know, I've talked with many women who had abortions with Klopfer, and they're, you know, now at the point where they're wondering, like, was that one of my babies? So a lot of people were affected by that. And, you know, so now it's time, now that they have been given a, you know, a proper burial, like now it's time for that people can actually start healing and, you know, moving forward. So yeah, it was good. It was a good display. Okay. There's a question here I want to answer. Okay, it says, my question is related to recent dialogues I've had on Facebook in which people continue to insist that Planned Parenthood provides needed medical services for low-income women who are under or uninsured to justify giving them our tax dollars. Can you help shed more light on what they do and don't provide? I know there's a big difference between providing a service and referring for a service. Can you speak more to the scope of that? Okay. So you said, for instance, someone saying that the only place that would cover an MRI and a mammogram was Planned Parenthood, and now they are having surgery. Planned Parenthood would only ever be referring for the services, correct? Yes, that is correct. So there's a lot of misunderstanding out there that people just sort of, I don't know, they sort of like blindly believe whatever. Like, I mean, I had this woman tell me one time, like, well, I got my mammogram from Planned Parenthood at their clinic. And I'm like, no, you didn't.
Did you? No, you did not.
I'm like, no, you didn't. She's like, yes, I did. I was like, no, you didn't. And I was like, where? What clinic? And she's like, well, I'm not going to tell you. And I'm like, right, because you didn't. Because Planned Parenthood doesn't operate a mammogram machine anywhere on the face of the earth. Like, people just lie. Like, they lie to try to get their point across. And when it's so easily provable that they're lying, like, that's what's really amazing to me. So, you know, look, here's sort of the big picture of Planned Parenthood. Every single year, according to Planned Parenthood's own annual reports, so not what we put out, but what they put out, their own numbers have been going down significantly in every other area except for tax funding and abortion. So every year, contraceptive services go down, STD services go down, you know, all these other healthcare services that they supposedly provide, they're going down. If you look over the past 10 years, if you look at sort of the aggregate data over the past 10 years, things like well woman exams, pap smears, they've gone down over 70% in the past 10 years. It's insane. I mean, all these breast exams they supposedly provide have gone down like 70% over the past 10 years. Prenatal care is pretty much non-existent there. Now, they will say, okay, if they provided a pregnancy test on a woman who's pregnant and then didn't have an abortion, they consider that prenatal care. Okay, that's not prenatal care, but that's what they call it. So when they say like they're doing prenatal care, they're not delivering babies. They're
Wow.
not doing tests for gestational diabetes. They're
By
not
that
doing anything
definition, I can
like
get
that.
prenatal care at Walmart.
Yeah, exactly. Walmart provides prenatal care for like $1. Like you give them $1, you get a prenatal care pregnancy test. So yeah. They're not referring to adoption services. This like adoption referral number, I don't even know where it comes from. Like I used to fill out the forms that we sent in for Planned Parenthood Federation, like for these numbers. I never filled out anything that said adoption referrals. We didn't count those. We didn't, nothing. So
Because they
I don't
weren't
have
a
any
goal.
idea.
Yeah, they weren't a goal.
No, I don't even know where that number is coming from. I think they just make it up every year. But even then, that number continues to go down. The made up number continues. So, I mean, I don't know. It's just, you can see, like, if you look at their data over the past 10 years, abortion services are up tremendously and everything else is declining. So, even when President Trump took away their Title X funding, which is $60 million, and they said, Planned Parenthood was, playing the victim, and oh, that's just gonna, all these poor women who are uninsured, underinsured, now they have less funding available to them. All Planned Parenthood had to do was say, you know what, you're right. Serving these uninsured women, these underserved women, that's more important, and so we're gonna stop. We're gonna stop doing abortions because we really do care, about providing these healthcare services. So we're going to stop doing abortions so we can keep the $60 million. They did it. President Trump has said to them over and over again, if you will stop performing abortions, I will stop trying to get rid of your money. But they won't. Cecile Richards, their past president, went on Twitter and said, in response to President Trump, said, she said, abortion is as important as providing a cancer screening pap smear. So they've told us very clearly where they stand on abortion and the importance of abortion. And when someone tells you who they are, believe them. And they've told us they are an abortion provider. They're opening more and more clinics across the country that only perform abortions. They don't do any other health care, no STD testing, no pap smears, no contraception, nothing. It's just abortion all day, every day, 6 days a week. Those clinics are popping up more and more all over the country. So it's like they're not even pretending. It's their fan base that continues this lie, that they're really out there for healthcare for poor women. But Planned Parenthood's not even claiming that anymore.
No, I
They're
mean,
like, no, we're abortion all the time.
Right. They let the president go because she wanted to go more of the healthcare route,
Exactly.
So, yeah, that's
exactly.
It's a farce, right? It's just something that I think it makes them feel better, right? If they can say that they're supporting something where abortion is not the priority.
Right. Exactly. Okay. All right. You have this question over there for me?
All right.
We have questions in like different places. So I'm like,
it's kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
It looks like this next one, this one's a tough one. So Noah, I know you sent it in a couple times and you were the one telling us hi in the beginning. So I am going to go ahead and read it, but just know this is going to be a tough one to address. So he says, I have a friend in my homeschool co-op who says that her number one fear of adulting is unplanned pregnancies. However, she thinks that abortion is a godsend. What would you say to her? Okay. I don't think you're going to win her over with a debate. I don't think that's going to happen. I think I might go at this a little bit different direction, but and Abby could probably school us all on pro-life apologetics to help kind of break through these things. And also let it be known, we're going to have some videos rolling out in a few months that are going to address some of these things so that you guys will be able to be equipped to be able to answer some of these tough questions that come at you, because it seems like instead of, just respecting life, we get all the exceptions that are thrown at us, right? Like, well, what about this? And what about this? But more than anything, trying to live that out so that you're building bridges with people. So it's not, the conversations that you have are not, furious debates over why somebody is wrong. It's about being able to lift up human dignity and respect life. And unfortunately, we live in a culture of death, where a culture of convenience, right? Where if it's inconvenient for me, I just want to scrap it and start over. And that's why people sometimes are scared of unexpected pregnancies, because they think that it is the end of their future. And so sometimes that's really hard to have that discussion with someone until they're experiencing it themselves, and helping them see that there is a path to something amazing and beautiful, even if it wasn't exactly what you had originally pictured. It still can be something probably even better than your expectations were originally anyway. And I have to tell you, this is where I kind of step on my soapbox for a minute. I'm so tired of the world and our culture telling us that we can't do things, right? Instead of trying to empower us, the abortion industry tries to strip that from us, and coddle us, saying, you're right, you can't go to school and have this pregnancy, or you can't have that career and have this pregnancy, you can't have that life that you wanted and have this pregnancy. And so we're gonna help you by ending this pregnancy. And guys, it's just, nothing could be further from the truth. It's going to look different, right? And it's going to look different for each person, but it is absolutely possible to have this child, right? And be able to still accomplish your dreams. They may look different, they may be on a different time frame, but it is possible. And I would tell you, and anybody who is doubting on you on that, if that is what your circle of influence is telling you, then you need a new circle of influence, right? Surround yourself with people that will build you up and help you problem solve. And solving the problem doesn't mean ending that pregnancy. So Abby, what else would you add to this situation? Like, how would you live this out?
Yeah, I mean, and there's another question that's sort of similar to this, like, how do I talk to pro-choice people? I'm not gonna lie, it can be hard to talk to pro-choice people, especially when their hearts are like really hardened, and sometimes you just want to shake them, like, how do you not see this? Like, wake up to what's going on, honestly, a lot of times nothing you say is going to make that big of a difference. Like, it's going to have to come through their lived experiences, through, maturity. But I always tell people, like, if you look in the Bible, every time the apostles asked Jesus a question, he answered with a question. Now, that was probably super annoying for the apostles, okay? Like, just answer the question, Jesus. But he showed us an example, right, of how to have dialogue with someone. So if she's coming at you and saying, I think abortion's great, blah, blah, you know what? Answer her with a question. Ask her, like, I mean, I don't know what you'd be talking about at that moment, but like, if you're talking about abortion, you could say, like, what is there something that like really caused you to be pro-choice, to support abortion? Look, every person that's pro-choice, almost every person I've talked to has a reason. They know somebody that's had an abortion. They have had an abortion themselves. Like, there's something personal going on there. They had a friend that had an abortion, and whatever it may be, they were there to support them. And everybody has a reason for why they do and believe the things that they do. So just like I have a reason I'm pro-life, I have my own story, right? This girl, she probably has her own story. So you need to try to figure out what that is. And you're only going to be able to do that by asking some questions, and not like super like probative questions, but just sort of open-ended, like, tell me, when do you think you became pro-choice? Was it something specifically that like made you really think abortion's like a good thing? Or, have you ever seen an abortion? Like, did you ever see the movie Unplanned? Like, have you ever listened to somebody who worked in an abortion clinic, to hear their perspective? Like, just things like that. Just sort of opening up dialogue about these issues. I think you'll be surprised at what you learn when you just start asking questions. And that's for anybody.
Yeah. And don't
I was at a rally one time it was a whole women's health, B. Hellerstadt case. So it was at the Supreme Court. And, I'm standing there, we had a rally. I had spoken and I'm sort of walking off the stage, and this girl was like, man, she was really aggressive. She's like getting in my face. She was like putting the sign like literally like this close to my nose. Like, okay. And y'all, like, I got a little bit of hood in me. Okay. I was like, like, you are not going to put that close to my face, girl. Like, I was about to lose it. Right. But I like took a deep breath. I like started to pray, and I was like, Lord, like, just, like, you got to help me here. Like my flesh, I'm wanting to get in my flesh. Right? So I was really trying to like back off, And so I sort of came around to the side, like where her sign was in my face. And I was like, hey, why are you pro-choice? And she had a story. And she told me, so we started talking. Now, this girl who just been yelling in my face, putting a sign in my face, I just asked her that simple question. Like, why are you pro-choice? And she started talking to me. And like, at first it was sort of like tense, like I could tell she was still like real riled up, fired up. But I just kept asking questions, and she just kept answering them. And she told me, like, during that time that she was a Christian. And I was like, oh, so, I just asked her, like, how do you think your beliefs, like, and, your Christian beliefs and abortion, like, how do those square up? And we started talking. So at the end of it, I was like, well, it's been really great talking to you. And I was like, hey, I know we're in like a super crowded place, and like there's people everywhere, and like everybody stinks, and we're all hot and sweaty, but like, can we just like pray together really quick? Okay, y'all, that is not me. Okay, I am not like a public prayer. I'm not like the person who's grabbing everybody like, you want to pray with me? Okay, that's not me. Okay, but I was just like very prompted. I was like, you want to pray? And she was like, yeah, I do. So we stood there and like prayed together for like a minute, and then we parted ways, and that was it. Like, and that conversation probably didn't change her mind. She didn't walk out of there going, well, I'm pro-life now. Some lady was nice to me, right? But what if I had returned that by screaming at her in her face? Like, that certainly wouldn't have been like a good representation for who we say we are in the pro-life movement. And that's what we want to do oftentimes, because like we want to defend ourselves. We want to defend these babies. Like, we're passionate about it. We want to defend the right to life. And it's hard for us to understand, like, why can't they just get this? But I'm telling you, if you start asking genuine questions, and not in an aggressive way, but just like, not like, don't you know that life begins at conception? Okay, not that kind of question. Okay. Right. But just like an open-ended question, like, it's very disarming for people, and they really will start to open up. And that's when dialogue can take place.
I love that. And I've learned that if you affirm something in them, then they will, and it sounds like that's kind of what you did with her, like, because it does disarm them really quickly. Like, even if it's their passion, right? Even if it's just saying, you know what, I really admire your passion on this issue. Like, and then you're able to start building that bridge with them, because just being combative with them and just debating with them, which works really well for me because I'm not a debater. Now my husband will tell you something totally different, right? But I'm not by nature. And so I think it just gives you the opportunity to have those conversations. And guys, it's about being pro-love, right? It's about living that out. So,
and I'll tell you like another quick story, like we're about to end, but like, even like for those of you that go out to the sidewalk, I had an opportunity one time. I was praying on the sidewalk, and Doug was with me. My husband was with me. And I always say he's my lucky penny, because every time he comes out with me, God saves a baby. Aww. But yeah, so he was out there with me one time, and this guy got out of the car with his wife, and I started reaching out to the wife, and this guy, y'all, he was like this big dude, like super, like, he works out. Okay. He like comes around the side of the car, and he like tells her, like, go in the clinic, I'll be in there in a minute. He comes around to me, he gets in my face, he's screaming and cussing at me. Doug is like about to light into this guy, right? And I just sort of look over at Doug like, like, just, keep it together, you know, whatever. And I looked at him and I said, man, I said, you know what? I was like, I love how passionately you are defending your wife.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that's exactly who God made you to be. I was like, I love that. Like, I love the passion that you have for her right now. Like,
Did he melt?
and I was like, but you know what, man? I was like, I'm not the one who's going to hurt her. I'm just standing out here trying to give you information. The people who have the potential to hurt her are inside that clinic that you just sent her into. And man, he was just like, dang right, like I'm protective, right? And I was like, that's awesome. Like, I love that. And I was like, this is my husband. He's about to come over this fence, right? Like, that's who God made you to be. And that's awesome. I love that about you. Like, it's amazing. We sat there and talked at that fence for an hour. I found out he liked MMA fighting. Okay, I like MMA fighting. So we started talking about all these fighters we like. We started talking about MMA fighting. We did not talk about abortion, like, for the bulk of the conversation. We were just, like, talking about stuff that we liked, like, finding common interests, whatever. Like, I needed him to see me as, like, a normal person, you know, not as some, like, holy roller that's going to beat him over the head with a Bible. Like, yeah, okay, I like MMA fighting too. So do you. Let's talk about it, you know? And so we started talking, and we started talking about marriage stuff, and, you know, the conversation was, like, really fun. He was a really fun guy. Like, we were just talking or whatever. And then I finally said, you know what she wants you to do? He was like, what? And I was like, she wants you to go in there and get her out. I was like, I've been in that situation, and I was like, every girl wants a Prince Charming. Every girl wants a knight in shining armor, and that's what she needs you to be right now. And man, he sure did. He walked right in there, and I don't know what he told her, but he said something like, we're not doing this. We can do this. We can have this baby. They walked out holding hands. They waved at me. He thanked me so much. They got in the car. They drove off. They didn't come back. So sometimes, and it's not me, y'all. I mean, it's not what I say. I mean, it's just like, you just got to really be Jesus to people, you know, like, just try to, like, do what Jesus did. And I'm not, like, awesome like Jesus, but, like, I look at his example of what he did when he, on, you know, during his 33 years on earth, and he talked with people, he sat with people, he loved people. And then he said, don't go do that anymore. Right? Like, and they responded because they saw that he genuinely cared for them and he loved them. And so that should really be our response to anybody who disagrees with us. And we mess up. I mess up. Like, we all sometimes let our flesh take over. That happens, you know. We're not perfect. None of us are perfect. None of us are Jesus, right? Like, we're going to mess up. But, you know, we have to keep that in the forefront of our mind. Like, just, we are ambassadors for Christ everywhere that we go. And we're ambassadors for this movement. And so what are we doing to love people as Jesus loved them?
Absolutely. And also, like, if you've messed up before, just do it better, right?
Yeah.
You know better, you do better.
That's right. You don't have to make amends for it your whole life. Like, okay, you screwed up, you know, okay, move along, right? Do it better next time. That's all we can ask of ourselves to do, because perfection is not attainable.
Not this side of heaven, for sure.
No. So everybody, it's been really fun to be on this call with you. I hope that you gained something out of it. We will go back to our usual webcast next month. Do you know who's going to be on the webcast next month?
I don't have that to announce yet, but watch our social media. And if you're not signed up yet, for emails from us, make sure you go to abortionworker.com or prolove.com and sign up for our emails so that we can keep you up to date on all of these webcasts and how to text Abby, right? Abby sends out texts regularly as well, so you can stay in the know on what's going on in the pro-life movement.
Yep. So thanks, everybody. We hope you have an awesome night, and we will see you again when we do this next month.
All right. Bye, guys. Take care.